Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Occult Perspectives. I am Tyler Smith, your host on this channel. If you haven't watched my videos before, this is going to be Albert Pike, Morals and Dogma, Part 7, I believe. I think there's already 6 videos, if I'm not mistaken. And we are on Part 2, The Fellowcraft. I wanted to share a couple things before I started this video. It's pretty late here. It's like 8 p.m. Not super late, but I've been working at 6 a.m., so I'm usually up by 5:15 at the latest in the mornings. So it's been kind of a long day for me. I normally do these videos earlier in the day, so if it seems like I'm tired or exhausted, that's why. I've been up for quite a while today, and it's been pretty non-stop, so worked 8 hours and then been working continuously since I've been home. I had a really cool experience I wanted to share, especially on this channel, Occult Perspectives, with all of you. As you can see, I'm wearing this new pentagram necklace that my fiance got me. This is my first upside down pentagram. Decided I wanted to start getting the magnetic energy going on, bringing energy in rather than always being electric and so outward. The upwards pentagram, it's more masculine and electric energy, whereas the upside down pentagram is magnetic. It's more earthy. It's not evil, it's more about how the symbols are used. You have duality above the unity, so it is more material. But this is a necklace for blessing, prosperity, protection, and it's also been blessed by Archangel Michael as well. Speaking of Archangel Michael, that's actually what I wanted to get to. I played music with my band over the weekend, and it was really nice. Just about 45 minutes from where I live. There's some private land out there. And there's no phone service, actually, so it's actually pretty nice. You get a break from technology for the most part. I was mostly using my phone to check the time, so it was really relaxing. It was a good time. The music went well, but the sound guy, when I met the sound guy, I noticed that he had a pentagram necklace on, and it was an upright pentagram. And I was like, hey, that's a nice necklace. And I showed him mine, and his was cool. It was an upwards pentagram, kind of like my other necklaces, but it had like a crescent moon, like around the edge. And come to find out later on when we started talking and stuff, he is also knew about the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, so I did not expect to run into somebody who had such unique knowledge of the occult, of the esoteric. Even some of his terminology, I had to ask him, what's the definition of that word? Just because his grammar is pretty advanced. Sometimes through context I can figure out what a word means, but sometimes I like an actual definition. And his name was Michael. And the last sound guy that I had for a show was also named Michael. Michael's energy has been pretty prominent lately. I started working on Archangel Michael notes as well. I have one more video to finish up the Archangel Gabriel series, and then I'm going to jump into Archangel Michael will be the next angel that I cover. But for now, I wanted to get back into Morals and Dogma. I probably won't do a long video tonight, but I did just feel called to go ahead and do a video. In this version of Morals and Dogma, I have the hardback version, and in this book, it's on page 25. We are in the second chapter of Fellowcraft, and I'm going to continue right from where we left off in the last video. So yeah, I'll just get right to it. Some of the notes that I wrote down for this page: the moral intellectual advancement, or the raising, quote, of mankind. A lot of symbolism in that phrasing right there. But we're going to read a little bit to see how this all connotates and fits in. Philosophy and science explains the religion. We talk about the hero's journey, or the mystical life, the contemplative life, and we take this into account with sci-fi movies such as Star Wars, even Harry Potter, that has a lot of philosophical tenets in it. It's teaching you esoteric things throughout the story. Yoda and Obi-Wan Kenobi, they always have those little lessons of morality, kind of little gems tucked away in the movie. Not really tucked away, but just little key moments. We'll talk about the power of nature, wisdom and power of the great creator, natural laws. They are clear and unmistakable. In a Eleusinian example given here, we've talked about the Eleusinian mystery schools before. They come up quite a bit, especially if you read Manly P. Hall's. He talks about it a lot in The Secret Teachings of All Ages. There's a paragraph on keeping conduct in harmony with nature, always following natural laws. The reading of the scriptures is science. I put that in quotations. We're going to have to look into that. The mysteries, or the mystery schools, blend these two. So they blend religion and science, and that's a lot about what the Fellowcraft degree is about. It's symbolic of manhood, but it's also man learning knowledge. The Entered Apprentice was about the childhood stage of life. The Fellowcraft stage is where you really learn to apply the arts and sciences and the 7 liberal arts and sciences. You start to get a little more intellectual with the knowledge. The EA degree is more primordial, and it talks about the beginning and birthing. This is more the middle stage of life, the Fellowcraft degree. We learn lessons of life itself from studying nature, the whole as above, so below, the correspondence, the law of correspondence, Hermetic principles. We've talked about that on this channel. And I'm going to recommend that if you're a person who only watches certain videos on my channel, I tend to talk about ceremonial magic and all of the related topics in all of the videos in little clips and stuff whenever I get intuitions or I just want to add something to it. So there's little tidbits of information that pertain to all of these things in all of my videos. You don't have to watch all of my videos, but if you want, all the extra little tidbits, I highly recommend that you watch as many of them as you can. And these principles exist to create wisdom. Justice is the perfected law of truth. So that's all the notes for page 25. Let me go through and see if there's anything really interesting that we need to add to that. I'm just going to scroll through this real quick. Talking about, it's making a reference to the Eleusinian Hierophant, and believe that the study of nature is a mystery no less important than theirs, nor less adapted to display the wisdom and power of the great creator. Their lessons and demonstrations were obscure, but ours are clear and unmistakable. So Albert Pike, he's actually comparing the Masonic tradition with the Eleusinian mysteries. But he's saying that Masonry is more clear-cut. The lessons that are inculcated are more clear and unmistakable, whereas they were kind of obscure in the older mysteries. Not really sure how true that is. We deem that to be the best knowledge we can obtain of the soul of another man, which is furnished by his actions and his lifelong conduct. The first scriptures for the human race were written by God on the earth and heavens. The reading of these scriptures is science. That was that quote I quoted. Familiarity with the grass and trees, the insects in the infusora, which is like bacteria, I believe, teaches us deeper lessons of love and faith than we can glean from the writings of Fenelon and Augustine. So he's saying, study nature, just observe nature, and you can gain a lot more just from that, from observance, than you can a lot of these philosophers and stuff that are renowned. knowledge is convertible into power, and that's kind of like the whole idea of like the generator and stuff, you know. You start getting into circumambulation and energy movement and axioms into rules of utility and duty, but knowledge itself is not power. Wisdom is power, so it's knowing how to use the knowledge. And her prime minister is justice, which is the perfected law of truth. So it's like the balancing out, the scales, the weighing, you know, to create the perfected law of truth. The purpose, therefore, of education and science is to make a man wise. Okay, so that concludes page 25. This is page 26. And the rest of this fellowcraft chapter is pretty long. We're not going to get too far into it today. Yeah, that's quite a few pages. I think the first chapter was long too, but that one's quite a bit longer. So let's see what I have written. Formula is unimportant unless converted to meaning and then wisdom. This would be God in action. We've referred to that with the I am statements, the Saint Germain, if you're not familiar with those. I highly recommend I am affirmations. If you're having trouble correcting your mindset and staying in a positive mindset where the spirit continues to flow and you continue to be I don't know the word I'm looking for. You continue to not only be inspired, but motivated. That was really the word I was looking for. Looks like he gets into the brain hemispheres here on page 26. Love and justice, charity, mercy, and severity. So love and justice are like kind of 2 degrees of the same force. And mercy and severity, if we're getting into polarities, rather than it being black and white, it's different degrees of existence. We've talked about that several times on here. Great paragraph on adding to your wisdom and not just knowledge. Okay. Through wisdom, true freedom is understood. You see at the end of the paragraph today's predicament with so little wisdom in the world, which makes people better slaves. A whole paragraph on political science on this page as well. And I put my own note in here, it looks like. I feel all of this is too easily corrupted and will be transmuted by the true understanding of the higher self in the new Aeon of Horus. Yeah, a lot of these old ideas and stuff, especially when it gets into the political realm of things, we're going to be at such a high degree of consciousness that we won't be so stuck up by all the silly dualities of like the political system. We'll be able to work in a more unified way. We'll just be able to get to the root of the problem rather than it being this back and forth kind of deal. We'll have a higher vantage point of awareness. You know, military is controlled under civil powers. No more war, but you should always have a means to defend. Even advanced civilizations fall prey to attack. So yeah, so even if your civilization is super advanced and it's ruled by philosopher kings, you know, and everybody's real wise and real pious, you know, real righteous people, you still need some kind of you know, military or something to protect yourself. Because there's typically going to be some kind of outside force in one way or another that tries to disrupt that tranquility and peace. The kingdom, you know, the true temple of God must always be protected. Okay. So let's go ahead and roll through page 26. That's all my notes on it. Let's see what, if there's anything that's interesting enough. Don't lose sight of the true object of your studies in Masonry. It is to add to your estate of wisdom and not merely to your knowledge. So it's not about gaining just the storehouse of knowledge, which I myself am often very guilty of. But it's about how you implement that knowledge to create a better world. help create a more evolved, advanced world, raise the vibrational, consciousness and awareness of the planet. A man may spend a lifetime in studying a single specialty of knowledge, whether it be botany, entomology, for instance, committing to memory names derived from the Greek and classifying, reclassifying, etc., and yet be no wiser than when he began. And I think we see so much of that in the world today. You have people who are, quote unquote, like super intellectuals. They might have photographic memory, they might have all these facts memorized, but it's really about understanding holistic knowledge and really getting down to the nitty-gritty, the natural principles, cause and effect. What are the true causes that cause the manifestation, that cause the reality, quote, that you see before you? See, people, that's why they don't understand esoteric information, because it's that which is understood by the few. It's often veiled in symbolism because it's conveying something that almost can't even be described in words, of course, at the highest levels. But yeah, you have this super intellectualism now where people think that certain things are knowledge, but it's just another manifestation of the illusion. It's really only when you get to the Hermetic principles and you start understanding how the universe works. And it's something I've been dealing with a lot lately, is that people are not already on this level. It becomes very frustrating, but we have to practice patience and tolerance. Anger is something I've been working with personally, but yeah, just a lot of people who, they might know a lot, but how much does it practically actually help the evolution of mankind? How much does it actually help others in becoming more of a light and a beacon? I think a lot of intellect is wasted on needless things, but that's just me. I think it's more about quieting and quieting the mind and getting to a place where you understand that you are already source, but you're the spark of source, and but you can connect to that, the source of all. It's always within reach. And that's what I think true initiates, they get to the point where they spend their whole life. If a certain level of sacrifice is given up, you have to be willing to let go of certain things in the Maya and the illusion and the physical. And you will be rewarded, but it's good to know what our station is in life. Not everybody's meant to be the yogi on the mountain. For some people that is their dharma, that's their life purpose, is to help the evolution of humanity in working through the astral realm and in working through ascended masters and such, and bringing that influence here. But that's kind of getting away from the topic for now. I'm getting sidetracked. You already knew. You know what I was trying to say, though. So. It is the great truths as to all that most concerns a man as to his rights, interests, and duties that Masonry seeks to teach her initiates. It's interesting he refers to Masonry, he personifies it as a her. I mean, that's cool. I'm cool with that. Let me see if there's anything interesting. A lot of this book, as I've said before, it's kind of just him like rambling on a lot. That's why I'm really just trying to pick out the more esoteric information out of this. And it's not until later chapters I noticed that a lot of the earlier material in here is more just political or literal. And as you get into the later chapters of Morals and Dogma, it starts talking more about the tree of life, and it starts getting more philosophical and esoteric. If you don't know who Albert Pike is, he was a 33rd degree Freemason, and he was one of the main guys who helped to form the Scottish Rite. He's definitely one of the key players. It's not really the best picture of him. He's like really old in that picture, but You can kind of see him there. If you Google him, there's definitely some better pictures. Albert Pike. By the increase of wisdom, he not only better knows his rights, but the more highly values them, and is more conscious of his worth and dignity. His pride then urges him to assert his independence. And a lot of people see pride as a sin, but there's different aspects to pride, just as there's different aspects to selfishness. I was just reading a little bit from Ayn Rand's The Virtue of Selfishness. I highly recommend that book too. If you need some influence in your life to get you going and to motivate yourself and to do something for yourself, it's not always a bad thing. It's more of a drive. It's more of finding out what your true will is. That's what what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. It's not doing what you think you want just on the whim of the moment. Not at all. It's about from the higher vantage point of your higher self, your holy guardian angel, however you want to see that, your true will on that higher level, and then you're channeling that to your physical existence now. He becomes better able to assert also, and better able to assist others or his country. But mere knowledge makes no one independent, nor fits him to be free. Often only makes him a more useful slave. Liberty is a curse to the ignorant and brutal. Yeah, and he starts like in the last paragraph here, he's just kind of like going on about political science, monarchs, the mob, despotism, all this general stuff. Like I said, in the new Aeon, we're going to like skip a lot of this. It's not going to be so political anymore. Of course, there's going to be a hierarchy of some kind. Even the angels work in a hierarchy, you know, there's different degrees of existence. That's just how it goes, even though it's all one, too. But humanity will come into a higher understanding of all of these things. It's already happening. The awakening is happening. So there's nothing really more interesting on that page. Let me see what my notes for page 27. More about freedom, and then historic reasons about why Masonry need not question political and moral duties. So many disgusting examples of history shown here. Virtues must triumph. Masons are eternal, vigilant soldiers of righteousness. It's kind of like the whole white knight kind of thing. Sacrifices for the sake of the order, or really for the sake of source, because of, you know, the order of Masonry is really to be under the guise of the eternal parent, you know, the true unity consciousness. The true all-seeing eye, not just a microcosmic deity, but the most macrocosmic and true source, even all the way to the Ein on the Kabbalistic tree, which is in essence no thing, but that's a whole different subject. I recommend you check out my Madame Blavatsky videos for that. I'm gonna look through this page real quick. A lot more, yeah, all of these bad things I was saying, what did I say? So many disgusting examples of history shown here. Basically what happens if things are not kept in line, like, you know, chaos can ensue. Basically tyrannical kings. But he mentions the long oppression of the feudal ages of the selfish Bourbon kings. Interesting. To those times when the peasants were robbed and slaughtered by their own lords and princes like sheep. Yeah, Masonry is all about holding people that are in power to a very high level of accountability and, you know, righteous ruling. Throughout history, there's been a lot of Masons who were, you know, like monarch leaders or such, or leaders of countries. You know, we see that with the presidents as well. Those morals are very important. When people are in charge that way, they don't become tyrannical, they don't become corrupted. That's really, to truly become a servant of humanity is the real purpose here. Not to become evil and just tyrannical and wanting to kill everyone. Mentions the Masonic order as one of God's instruments. It is a force and a power, and shame upon it if it did not exert itself. And if need be, sacrifice its children in the cause of humanity, as Abraham was ready to offer up Isaac on the altar of sacrifice. I do not like that story, though. I don't. Because I don't believe that was ultimate source. That was more of like a demiurgic kind of story. But I think there are many sacrifices that one makes. There's different degrees of sacrifices, and source takes all of that into accountability. When you've truly sacrificed yourself or given yourself up to spirit to really help somebody from a purely, heart perspective, you're not doing it for gain, you're not doing it for any of those things. You're doing it good for the sake of doing good, not for a reward. I think that will always be, rewarded. Yeah, sacrifices are personal things that we choose ourselves. Never sacrifice other people. That's more of an allegory, in my opinion, just as many things from the Bible are. But yeah, at the end, if you sacrifice yourself to source for a noble cause, there is indeed something worthy in that. But don't take up that job if you're not ready. And also, people may want to sacrifice themselves or whatever, but I think it's better to stay and fight the good fight. A lot of people might just want to run away, or they might just want to find something that distracts them or takes away the pain somehow, but so if you can use to me, a sacrifice doesn't have to be a literal sacrifice. It's you taking time out of maybe something that you think that you want to do that could be, just self-indulgent. Maybe it's not bad, but let's say you take the day to go visit a friend instead and see how they are and check up on them. In a way, that's kind of a sacrifice. I think sacrifice is kind of a subjective thing. It's going to mean different things to different people depending on what it is. But everyone carries their cross in a way, in one form or another. But yeah, sacrifice in general is something that, in a literal sense, should probably be avoided. A lot of the archaic forms of magic and stuff we see, like in the book of Leviticus, I think the third book of the Bible, we see a lot of animal sacrifices to God. I don't think that's there's magic and things that you can manifest through the energy of that animal and stuff, but there's no real reason to be doing that stuff anymore. We should work more with energy work and work more with our inner temples. But a lot of the Bible stuff, some of that's symbolic and some of it's literal, the sacrificing and the stuff. Sacrificing of the animal passions. Usually when animals are referenced in the Bible, it's making a reference to the zodiac. So if it's a ram, it's Aries. If it's a bull or a calf, it's Taurus, etc., etc. So I don't think I'm going to go too much longer. I do have to blow my nose though, so I am going to go do that real quick. I will return in just a second. Alright, let's go ahead and do one more page. And then I'm actually not sure if I have more Morals and Dogma notes after this. This may be the last of my handwritten notes, but I'm not entirely sure. Looks like it though, at least in this notebook. So I'll probably have to work on some more notes from Morals and Dogma before I cover it again. I've got other things to do though, like Gabriel and Archangel Michael, and I want to get back to Dante as well. But I just wanted to do something that I hadn't done for a while. Okay. So page 28. All the things that defenders of truth will not have to answer to if they were true warriors. We'll see what that's all about. I will try, it shall not be its fault if the day never comes when man will no longer have to fear a conquest, an invasion, a usurpation, a rivalry of nations with the armed hand, an interruption of civilization. What is he getting into here? Basically, he's saying eventually wisdom and justice on either hand will reign supreme. In your studies as a fellow craft, you must be guided by reason, love, and faith. Even in the ordinary affairs of life, we are governed far more by what we believe than by what we know, by faith and analogy than by reason. The, quote, age of reason of the French Revolution taught, we know, what a folly it is to enthrone reason by itself as supreme. Reason is at fault when it deals with the infinite. There we must revere and believe, because he's saying the infinite is so vastly beyond what we can even conceive from a human perception. At some point, you know, it is, even though we are connected to it, to know it in its entirety from where we are at this particular point. Very few have penetrated into the deepest mysteries, and even then there's more, you know, there's always more. Throughout the miseries of the deserving, or the prosperity of tyrants and the murder of martyrs, although all this bad stuff goes on, we must believe there is a wise, just, merciful, and loving God, an intelligence and a providence supreme over all and caring for the minutest things and events. A faith is a necessity to man, woe to him who believes nothing. And it does change the whole fabric of how your reality manifests and your level of gratitude and stuff. If you don't believe in anything at all, I mean, you can still be an atheist, but there's something there. It's not just nothing. The way, you know, even science like quantum physics and all that stuff, it's starting to show us that we're all just like, this is like a matrix reality, but at the end, everything had to come from something. But even beyond the something, which is the limitless all, would be the no thing. It's funny, he says, woe to him who believes nothing, which is no thing, the ein, which is beyond even the all. So, the Ein Sof, the limitless all. We believe that the soul of another is of a certain nature and possesses certain qualities, that he is generous and honest or penurious, not sure what that means, and knavish. There's so many old terms in here. That she is virtuous and amiable, or vicious and ill-tempered from the countenance alone, from little more than a glimpse of it without the means of knowing. We venture our fortune on the signature of a man on the other side of the world whom we never saw, upon the belief that he is honest and trustworthy. We believe that occurrences have taken place upon the assertion of others. We believe that one will acts upon another, and in the reality of a multitude of other phenomena that reason cannot explain. I think what he's trying to get out there, or get through, and he could say in simpler means, is that it's, even though we perceive others, it's hard to know what they actually know, you know. You can only get a glimpse of it. At least that's how I'm interpreting it. It's like we perceive all these other things, but how do we really know what that being is perceiving and experiencing? It's having its own unique experience. I know someone who's probably, you know, knows more about morals and dogma and is really into the political and the historical references. Once again, I'm going to make it clear that I'm really not digging into all that stuff in here, the political and kind of a lot of this historical stuff, but I'm getting more to the morals and the more esoteric stuff. I've definitely mentioned that in some of the other videos. Only truth can arise from the ashes. No, not sure why I put that in there, but the phoenix. Man, I'm so sniffly. I'm gonna have to blow my nose again. This just started to happen. Reason, love, and faith. We are guided more by what we believe than by what we know. True that. Even in ceremonial magic, when you're using, visualizations and stuff, and you're imagining the archangels, you have to believe, and then you come to know through experience, through contact. Reason can only get you so far. Faith takes us beyond. And I used to be objectivist. I used to be solely based on reason. But if we only take what we can perceive with our five senses into account, yeah, sure, it's all we can know physically. But you can still have internal experience and have, a knowingness and a deep internal sense of that which is beyond too. If you work on meditation and all these spiritual practices, you will quickly begin to learn that, especially if you're working with Western ceremonial magic or whatever tradition it is, that you are the driver in the driver's seat, and you really do affect reality. Every action that you take, it's like everything I move on this table. Sometimes I'll take my stones and move them around, and I picked up that when you move certain things, you change reality. They say for a novice or a new initiate, they can't make the change or put the causes into effect as powerfully as a master. The new initiates might have to do a whole ritual to do something, whereas the master just turns like a ring or something really simple. So the more powerful, the more knowledgeable you get about how the as above and the so below, as above, so below, how it's all like one divine link, the more you can work with these powers. It's almost like sympathetic magic. It's along those lines. You really don't have to perform as many physical actions. You can change the reality with your mind. That's getting into to other topics, though. We're getting off track. The belief in this must remain and be sustained through all trials. Putting our trust and our hope in that divine source, because if you dig deep inside, your soul really knows. And there's certain points in our lives where we make contact with that knowingness and we truly remember. We almost get this sense of nostalgia, like, oh, I've been here before. It can happen in ritual a lot or meditation. But that's where we've always been. It's always been home. And this kind of dreaming, all these experiences, all these worlds, is just us, like God forgetting that that it is source. It's like we are God that forgot that we were God. It's very fractal-y and matrixy like that. There was a picture I just saw on Facebook. It's perfect. It was a little meme. I forget what the quote said, but it was talking about, God experiencing itself, or everything being one, but it's like God behind the tree, and he's puppeteering Adam and Eve, but he's also puppeteering the snake too. So he's actually like all the different pieces. It's funny. It's cool. But yeah, it's all interconnected. It's all one at the end of the day. Even though our egos, it's hard for us to accept that sometimes, that we want to be connected in some ways, but in other ways it's kind of scary. So we've divided ourselves up into all these different groups and sects and organizations, and which isn't always a bad thing. We need groups of like-minded people to work with, but at the same time, humanity has to unify as well. How much faith we hold in others when we are doing so many things in life, money, transactions, etc. It's all connected. Yeah, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry about my nose. I really need to blow it again. But what he was saying there, basically is, even when you Alan Watts, he says when you take a step, for the day, you start to walk out, you get out of bed, you already have faith that the floor is not going to fall out beneath you. You go forth not knowing that everything's going to be okay, but it's the faith and the assurance. And even if you're in your dealings with people every day, like, you have to trust people to some extent. And I think that universal current, that universal trust and understanding, and people accepting each other for who they are, being courteous, in public, all of these things, these are good virtues to have. We don't want to be that person that's just like always angry, and sometimes I feel like that's me. I'm always feeling pretty alienated from those people because of the way I think, and trying to always view life from this really deep philosophical perspective, and reading books and taking notes, and that's just the kind of nerd that I am. So if we walk away with something tonight, I'm about to end this video, just practice tolerance and love and respect, and try to remember that everything's having its own journey, and we have to respect that. If something's not meant for us, we can walk away from it at any time. And we should keep the things that are meant for us in our lives, and everything is naturally gravitating towards God. It's gravitating back towards Source. We've covered that in the Dante videos a little bit. It really gets into that in Paradiso, but remember that we're all just on the journey of life. We're flowing through the river. We're flowing through the experience. There's already a story. There's already a plan. Our higher vantage point, our higher self already sees that. Just trust that and go forward in the knowingness that everything will be all right. So much peace and love to you all. I hope you're all staying safe. Hope life is treating you well, and that you are not just surviving, but that you are thriving. So let's go for that again. I think this past moon phase has been really rough. Some of us have lost some loved ones. It's been a crazy ride, but just stick in there. Stick with like-minded people, find those loved ones that you can really connect with on that deeper level, and hold them dear. And you know who those people are in your lives. So please be sure to subscribe, ring the notification bell. If you want to be notified of new videos, tell your friends about my YouTube channel if they're into similar subjects, if you think they would be into this sort of thing. We've almost reached 500 subscribers, so that's really exciting. I'd like to get to like 1,000 subscribers by next year, like a year from now, like October of next year. That would be really cool. Start getting a bigger fan base, and maybe start being able to do like YouTube live videos, because we just don't have enough people for that yet. For everyone to jump on, I feel like I need a slightly bigger following for that. So, but I prefer to keep my videos simple. I'm more about, not so much about visually being an entertaining channel or anything. I'm here sitting with my books, and I'm giving you direct knowledge. And maybe you have notes that you've taken yourself. You want to take, the most interesting parts of what I say and add them to your repertoire. That's really kind of what this is all about. And it's all about just spreading the information, the knowledge, and the peace and the love. So I'm sure in the next couple videos we'll get more back into archangels and ceremonial magic stuff. Perhaps Dante. We'll see where it goes. So peace and love, everyone. Take care.